you for joining us today. I'm going to go through our application builder module and I'm going to show you how to build an application from scratch that allows you to track additional information in JD Edwards and also be able to add some pretty neat functionality to that application. We're going to add things like buttons to the screen. We're going to add some formatting to some of the columns so you can really make it function as a real application. So we're going to start with the basics today and kind of go through and just show you how to create an application from scratch, how to link it to other areas of JD Edwards, and also how to execute it from a menu or from a command line when you're finished. So I'm going to start off by going into the application module itself, application builder module, and we're going to do that by either going from a menu option or you can type it into your fast path, which is PQ60600 is the designer form that you would start from your building your application. So this is what our main form looks like. So from here we're going to create a new application. So today I'm going to create one that kind of goes along with a lot of our real estate customers, and it's a way to track your partial tax information, which is some area in JD Edwards that you really don't have a place to store that data. So we're going to create an application so we can store it. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to click Add because I want to create a new application. And then from here I just give it a name, whatever I want to call it today. So I'm going to call this one our tax partial information. And as a version, it can be anything I want it to be. I'm going to set this up for 2016. I want to be able to store my tax information for this current year and be able to use this in JD Edwards. And I can hit OK, and it's created our application. So now we're going to go in, we're actually going to add some functionality to this application itself. When we go into the details of the application, we kind of see a blank screen here. So we want to go through and create something new to the application and add some functionality to it. The first thing I want to do is I want to make it look like an application. I don't want it to look like a generic spreadsheet. So what I want to do is I want to actually add some column text to this to make it look like a real application. So I'm going to go up to my form exit, and then I'm going to go to my column header text. This is where we control all of the header text for our application. And from here we just put in what we want to call each column. So column A, I want that to be my building information. So I'm going to fill in building. B, I want to be my effective dates for my tax partial information. C is my partial number. D, I want that to be my land square footage. E is going to be my improvement square footage. And then I'm going to have my land tax itself, then my improvement tax, and then I'm going to have a total line to go along with it. So total tax. And that's really it. This actually will go through and kind of format our columns with those types of headings. So you can see now that we actually have something that has more meaning to it than it would be by just creating like a spreadsheet. Now I could have went through and left the ABC across the top, and I could have set that up as columns inside of a row. You could do that as well. It's open however you prefer to do that. But in this example, I wanted to show you how to actually create and format your columns. So now that we have our columns there, let's go through and let's actually format our columns. And what I mean by format is I want to make these columns that have a little bit of functionality to them other than just a kind of a generic column that we have now. So I want to go through and put some formatting on each column. Like for the building, I know that's tied to the MCU. I want to be able to link that to the MCU so I know that when I key in, it's got validation or I have my visual assist. So I'm going to go through and set up our formatting for a column. So if you're doing a format for a column, you would go to your row exit and you would select your column attributes. This applies to the entire column that I'm working with. So if I click on column attributes, we're going to do the first one is our building. So I would go ahead and leave that one as selected and then hit select, and this brings up my attribute screen. In my attribute screen, this is where I can add lots of information, formatting, linking to formulas, that type of thing for this particular column. But for this one, for my building, I want to link it to a business unit. We have some pre-built at the bottom for our validation and format codes, and we have one up here for business unit. So if I select this and then I hit save, it's now going to actually make that column a business unit type of column. So now when I come in here, see I'm in the screen and I have my Visual Assist button. If I click on Visual Assist, it's actually going to go out now and it's going to invoke the business unit master search. And it's also going to do the validation. So I'm adding some functionality to this particular column so that way it actually functions as a real application. Now the next thing I want to do as part of this is I want to do more formatting on the rest of them. And as part of my formatting, I can format columns as dates, as numbers, different things about the application itself. So I'm going to format my effective dates column to be a date. So again, I go to the same process, go to my row exit, I hit my column attributes, and I'm going to select my effective dates. So as I select my effective dates, down in the middle formatting, I've got all these options I can do for that column. I'm going to set that one to actually a date field. And so what this does, again, it formats any data that I put in there as a date, and then it also, again, for my Visual Assist, it actually will bring up a calendar if I select that, or it can bring up a validation against that date itself. Okay, so we're going to add some more there, and let's go on and do the rest of them as well. So our partial number, we're going to leave that as a text field, and it defaults as a text because a partial number could have some alphanumeric characters in it. But I know my land square foot and my improvement square foot and my tax amounts are all numeric. So I'm going to go through and actually format those again. So column, I'm going to go to my land square foot, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to set that as numeric, and I want it to have 2 decimal places. So again, I'm just going through and I'm formatting my columns, and I'm going to do the same thing with my improvement square footage. So I just go through one by one, and I'm actually going through and formatting my columns so it's more like, again, like a real application. I want that also to have 2, and we'll save that one. Now let's go to do our land tax. And the same process, we just go down through it. We're going to select it as numeric. It's 2 decimals. And we save it. And we'll go to our improvement tax. And that's the last one we'll do for now. Improvement tax. We'll set that as numeric with 2 decimals. And we save it. Okay, so now we've actually formatted our columns so it's more like an application. So we've actually built the application, we've added our formatting to our column text that we've created and changed that column text so it actually has more of a meaning to that. Next thing I want to do, I'm going to show you how to import data into this grid. Now that we have it, you may get tax information from a third party, you may have it in an Excel spreadsheet. So here we're going to actually use some of the standard functions inside of JD Edwards to be able to import data into our grid. So I've got some tax data out there I'm going to go out and select. So here's my building tax information. I want to upload. Again, this is standard JD Edwards. So this is the standard functions JD Edwards you have inside of the application builder module as well. So you can take that information and we're going to import all of this tax information so we have it, and we will save it. So now as you see, we've got all of our tax information that's there, and it puts a blank line. This is something that goes with JD Edwards. It kind of puts a blank line in there when it brings the data back over because we have a line already when we first create it. I can go through and I can clean that up, and I can just delete that line out of there if I like, and then I'll save it again so that delete is out of there. So now I have my data imported. Now I have a place to actually store my JD Edwards data. Before, I did not have a place to do this. I would have to keep this outside of JD Edwards and do this in Excel spreadsheet, and I really wouldn't have access to it for my other applications that I want to use it for. And one example is we use this in our real estate module in JD Edwards, where I might want to build this on a tenant's expense participation calculation. If it's not inside JD Edwards, I have to manually enter this data. Now that I have it in JD Edwards, I have it easily accessible from other Denovo products of our flexible calculation module and our flexible billing module, which are installed inside of the JD Edwards real estate module. So I have other functionality that I can do as well. Now one thing I'll show you next is how to add a formula directly into a cell itself. So I could go out over here and say I want to total that up going across. I can go out there and I can say I'm going to take F2, which is my column I have now, and my row, I'm a 2, plus I'm going to take G2, and I want to add those up and have a total. So I can just type that straight into a cell, and it's actually going to go out and actually create a calculation for it. So now I actually have a formula for that particular line. And I can do those all the way down through the system. I can go out there and I can say, well, I want to make that a formula that covers all of the existing rows that I have in the system. I would go out, and this one is a little bit different on how you do a formula. This one, you want to go into revise attributes, which is specifically for a row. But I'm going to go into that H for that first one there. Actually, let me come back out. I didn't select that one. Let me select that one first. You have to select it first, then go to row and do revise attributes. And I'm going to go into that total. Now in here, you see my formula that I have for that particular cell. I can change it here. I can add it, delete it, whatever I want to do with it. But there is a checkbox here for column formula. If I select that, it actually opens up a message up here that basically tells me I'm applying this to all rows. And if I save that, it's going to take that formula and it moves it down to all the other rows as well. So if I want to see that, I would click the calculate button, and now as you can see, it went through and it totaled up all the rows across, and it actually applied that formula to all of the rows in my application. So it's an easy way to be able to create formulas that I can pass on down and just continue to use those where I want to do totals across. I could also do totals that sum things up going down as well. I can do things like sum functions. I could insert that, but we'll get into some of that in another training session. We get into some of the advanced functions on advanced formulas. But for now, we've got our application built. We've got all of our data stored that we want to keep track of, and we have our formulas for calculating a total. So now that I have all those calculations and totals together, we've created all that. I want to add a button to make it more like an application where I can get to other functions in JD Edwards. Now that I have it, but I might want to go over to my building master and I might want to see details on a particular building that I have selected in the row. So I can do that by adding a button to the form itself. So I can go into my form exit and I have button set up, which is pretty neat, where I can create a button kind of right on the screen and add it there. So I'm going to click on that particular function, and it's going to bring me to a screen where I can create a button. So I'm going to call this one my building details, because I want to go to the building. And then here I put in the program that I wanted to call 062, and I put in the version that I wanted to execute. So I'm going to just call the standard JDE one, and what form as part of that. Now, the way you get this information, and you may be questioning how I know this, well, you can go into any JD Edwards screen, and you go into the help on that screen. You can click information, and it will give you the program name, the version, and the form that you're on. So you could go record that information, bring it back, and key this in so it would actually execute this information for you. So we can add buttons to go to any screens in JD Edwards, and we'll go find one in just a minute and I'll show you how I get to that information. But right now we'll go ahead and add the building details. And one thing that's nice as part of this as well, I can go through and I can actually make it like a row exit, where it's going to go through and actually pass information into the application that I'm calling so I can have some details. So I can go through and say, you know what, I want to make this a row exit when I add this. So I want to pass a particular a row column to this. So I can select in the list here. I can go through and let me bring up the search and I can pull these in. Well, I can say I want to pull in A, because I'm going to take column A, which is my building, and I'm going to pass it as a sequence into the P15062, and that's going to be my first. Sequence is going to be 1. There's some advanced features here with knowing the sequence. You normally have to get some help from like maybe IT or somebody that knows how to get the actual order, that's your parameters. But once you find that out, you can actually do these on your own. So if I go into this now and I actually save it, so I've saved my information, and if I cancel back out, I've got building details there. So now what happens if I go in and I select something here and I click my building details, it actually takes the building number from this screen and it actually will pass it over into the building details screen and take me right to that. So I've now just built a link between my newly built application and an existing application already in JD Edwards that brought me into the building details. So a very easy way to link this up without writing any code, which is very, very important. You're not writing code. Now, as an example, say I want to go to Lease Master for some of this. Well, here's how we would go find out how to get to our lease information. So I'm just going to go out to the fast path here right now, and I'm going to go over to G15, which is my real estate. I know it's at real estate management, and I'm going to go into my daily process here, and I'm going to go into my tenants and lease information and lease information. So say this is a screen I want to come up when I click my button in my application. I want it to bring me here to lease information. So here's how I would find out what this is called. I would go here to the question mark and I would hit the about. And it pulls up the program name, CP1501. It brings up the version that I'm executing there, so JDE001. And this is the form that I want it to call. So W1501A. So I have this information, and I can just close that and come back in here. Now let's go back to our application, and let's add a button that's going to take us into our lease information. So again, we do the same process as before. We come in and we do our button setup. Now we already have our first button there. Let's come down here and do our lease information detail. So let's add a new one to this screen. And now let's put in the program name, 1501, and I'm going to add my different versions to this. And so my version is going to be JDE1231, and my form W1501A. So now I'm not going to make this a row exit. I want this just to be like a form exit. So it just goes out to the applications. I'm not passing anything to it. I don't really have a lease number on this screen to pass to that, so I'm going to go ahead and just save it as it is, and when I come back, now I have a new button for my lease information. And then if I click on that button, it's basically going to create the link, and now I'm right back into the lease information that I had before. So a very easy way, again, to be able to add functionality to the screen, which makes the application so powerful to link things up. Again, you're not writing code to link all of this together. So you're going through and you're creating your screen. We've added some formatting to the columns. We've added a calculation to the column, and now we're adding some more functionality to other applications. And I'm going to add one more here just so you can see it again. I want to go back out. We're going to add one to take us into our expense participation on real estate. Just as an example there, because this is where I can actually tie this in to actually do billing on that. I want to go into this screen, so I'm going to go through, bring it up just like I did before, and I want to bring it to this screen. So I'm going to go into my about, and I'm going to record the name. So it's P15210. The version is ZJDE1231, and then my form is W15210A. So same process as before. Come over here, let's go add it, and let's go to our form button. Now let's add another button down here, which is going to be for our EP information, and let's put the program P15210, version ZJDE1231, and then our form is W15210A. So now we save it. And now we have another application for EP information. Let's click it to validate it. And it takes us to our EP information. So, wow, we've got a full-blown functioning application here. So, in a matter, we've been going through this for 20 minutes so far. You know, halfway through our time here, we've actually been able to go through and build a real live application. And I can come to it and add data to this. Excuse me. Excuse me. I can add more information to this, I can actually go in and change it and be a real live working application. So now that I have this application built, it's like, okay, I want to be able to put this on a menu so people are able to use this just like they would any other application. Well, there's a way we can do this, and if we can record our name up here that we have, so we have the name here of our application, our tax partial information, and our version. So there is a function you can go out. We can go out into our batch or interactive versions. And this may be something that your IT may have to help you with to kind of set this up, but you can create it. You can go to the version PQ60-600D, which is our driver program, and you can see lots of different versions out there. So I'm going to create a new version of this program, and I'm going to call it my tax. I'm just going to call it tax P here. So this is our tax partial information. So we're going to have a blind execution, and we're going to save it. So we have our tax P version. So now let's go into our tax P version, and we're going to set some processing options so it knows what to call. So this is where we would set our application that we wanted to call. So tax information, and we have 2016. We're going to save. So now what we've done is we've set this up. We can put this actually on a menu. So we can't really put the PQ60-600 on the menu because it has it's kind of our design screen. But the PQ60-600D allows you to create your own version. And so when you put on the menu, you would put PQ60-600D version tax P, and we set in our processing option which of our applications we want it to call. So we would actually go in. Now, if we were to put it on a menu or call it from a command line, PQ60-600D, and I'll just show you what it would do now. So we're going to execute our tax P version. So if we execute that, then now it's going to actually go out and it calls our application, takes us right directly into it. So it bypasses the design screen that we were on as a designer. So it takes us right to the details and takes us right into all the information that we just created, and I can put that on a menu. So hopefully today this gives you some insight on how to build a basic application. There's lots of other functions that you can do in this system that allows you to track more data, to be able to link more data. And we'll get into some of those and some of the advanced features. We're going to hold these training sessions over a period of time. So next we'll get into some of the advanced formulas that you can do in the system. We'll also get into some really cool features where you can create your own import processes where you can take this data and you can actually, based on security, you can push the data from here right back into another JD Edwards table. So you could actually push data into address book, or you could push it into any other table in JD Edwards, and it would actually does validation over the data as it pushes it back in. So I hope today has been a good session for you today to give you insight on how to create a real simple application. And if